Commander Lisa Hayes stood on the bridge of the UES Guardian, watching the stars through the main screen. Her dark hair was pulled back tight, and her uniform was perfect, as always. The crew moved around her with quiet respect, mixed with fear. Everyone knew her reputation. She had never lost a battle against the alien enemy. They called her the Iron Lady of the Void behind her back. The Guardian was the biggest ship in the human fleet. Its weapons could destroy entire cities. Its armor could take hits that would break smaller ships in half. Lisa had commanded it for 5 years and turned it into the most feared vessel in known space. The aliens learned to run when they saw her ship coming. Lieutenant Kate Williams walked up to her with a datapad. Kate was young, but smart. She had served under Lisa for 2 years and learned to speak carefully around her commander. "Ma'am, we have completed the patrol sweep of Sector 7. All clear." Lisa nodded without looking away from the stars. "Set course for Sector 9. The aliens have been active there, according to intelligence reports." The ship turned smoothly toward the next patrol zone. Lisa liked the routine of hunting the enemy. It kept her mind busy and her crew sharp. The war against the Zephyrian Empire had been going on for 8 years now. Most people forgot why it started. Lisa did not care about the politics. She only cared about winning. The bridge was quiet, except for the soft hum of computers and the occasional beep from monitoring stations. Lisa preferred it this way. Too much talking made people sloppy. A sloppy crew got everyone killed. She had seen it happen to other commanders who were too friendly with their people. "Commander, we have a contact on long-range sensors." The voice belonged to Ensign Bobby Clark, who ran the sensor station. He was new to the ship, but good at his job. Lisa turned to face him. "Report. Single ship, small size. Appears to be damaged. It is not moving much and showing no weapon signatures. Alien ship." "Yes, ma'am. Zephyrian design. Looks like a scout class." Lisa thought for a moment. Standard orders were simple when they found enemy ships. Destroy them. But something made her hesitate. Maybe it was curiosity. Maybe it was boredom from too many easy kills. "Bring us in closer. Full scan." The Guardian moved toward the damaged alien vessel. As they got closer, the sensors showed more details. The ship was badly hurt. Its engines were barely working. There were holes in the hull that leaked atmosphere into space. It would not last much longer. "Life signs?" Lisa asked Bobby. Checked his instruments twice. One, very weak, appears to be in the main cabin. Weapons status. The ship has no active weapons. Most systems are offline. Lisa stared at the image of the dying ship on her screen. She could finish it with one shot from their smallest gun. It would be quick and clean. The pilot would die without knowing what hit them. That was the merciful thing to do. But something stopped her. Maybe it was the way the ship drifted helplessly in the dark. Maybe it was knowing that one person was alone in there waiting to die. "Prepare a boarding team. We are bringing that ship aboard." Kate looked surprised. "Ma'am, you heard me. Use the main cargo bay. Full containment protocols. Commander, that goes against standard procedure. Fleet regulations say to destroy disabled enemy vessels." Lisa gave Kate a cold look. The kind that ended discussions quickly. "I know what the regulations say, Lieutenant. I also know that Intel wants more information about enemy technology. A live capture will give us that." It was not the real reason, and Kate probably knew it. But it was a good enough excuse to put in the official report. Lisa had learned long ago that commanders needed to have reasons for their orders, even when the real reasons were hard to explain. The boarding operation took 3 hours. The alien ship was brought into the cargo bay using tractor beams. A team in full armor went aboard to check for traps or hidden weapons. They found nothing dangerous, just a lot of broken equipment and one unconscious person. Lisa watched from the bridge as they carried the prisoner to the medical bay. The figure was small and covered in a blanket. From the security cameras, she could see it was human. That was strange. Humans did not usually fly alien ships unless they were prisoners being moved, or spies who had been caught. Dr. Amy Rodriguez called from the medical bay an hour later. "Commander, the prisoner is stable. Minor injuries and dehydration. He should be awake soon." Yes ma'am. Human male. Mid-20s. No obvious signs of torture or abuse. Lisa frowned. A human male flying alone in an enemy ship made no sense. Unless he was a defector. The thought made her angry. Humans who betrayed their own species were worse than the aliens in her opinion. "Transfer him to Detention Cell 3 when he is ready to move. Full security." "Understood, Commander." Lisa spent the rest of the day thinking about their unexpected prisoner. She read intelligence reports about humans who had gone over to the enemy side. There were not many. Most were criminals running from justice, or people who had lost everything in the war. A few were idealists who thought the aliens were misunderstood. All of them were traitors as far as she was concerned. Evening shift began, and Kate took over the bridge duties. Lisa went to her quarters to eat dinner and review the day's reports. But she could not stop thinking about the man in the detention cell. Something about the situation bothered her, beyond the obvious betrayal of his species. The ship computer chimed with a message from security. The prisoner was awake and asking to speak with someone in charge. Lisa almost ignored it. Let him wait until morning. But curiosity got the better of her. She made her way down to the detention level. The halls were quiet this time of day. Most of the crew was either sleeping or on duty elsewhere. The detention area had 4 cells, but only one was occupied. The man inside looked ordinary. Brown hair, average height, wearing simple clothes that the medical team had given him. But when he looked at her through the force field, his eyes seemed different. They held something she had not expected. Not fear or anger or desperation. Something that looked almost like sadness, mixed with certainty. "You must be Commander Hayes," he said in a calm voice. "Thank you for saving my life." Lisa studied him carefully. "What is your name?" "Jake Morrison." "How long have you been with the aliens, Morrison?" 3 years. "Why?" Jake was quiet for a long moment. Then he smiled in a way that did not reach his eyes. "That is a longer story than you might expect, Commander, but I would be happy to tell it if you have time to listen." Something in his voice made Lisa pause. Most prisoners either begged for mercy or tried to seem tough. This man did neither. He spoke like someone who had something important to say, and was not sure if anyone would want to hear it. Against her better judgment, Lisa found herself curious about what Jake Morrison had to say. Lisa stood outside Jake Morrison's cell for a full minute before speaking. She was not used to prisoners who thanked their captors. Most enemy soldiers either cursed at her or stayed silent. This man seemed genuinely grateful to be alive even though he was now trapped on a human warship. "Tell me why you betrayed your own species, Morrison." Jake sat down on the small bench in his cell. He looked comfortable, despite being surrounded by force fields and security cameras. "Is that what you think I did, Commander? Betrayed humanity. You were flying an alien ship. You said you have been with them for 3 years. What else would you call it? Learning." The simple answer caught Lisa off guard. She expected denials, or excuses, or political speeches about peace and understanding. She did not expect calm honesty. Learning what? How to be human. Lisa felt her temper rise. "You learned how to be human by living with aliens. That makes no sense." Jake looked at her with those strange, sad eyes. "Commander, how long have you been in command of this ship?" 5 years. "What does that have to do with anything? And before that, I commanded smaller vessels. I worked my way up through the ranks like everyone else. How many people have you killed?" The question hit Lisa like a physical blow. No one asked commanders about their kill counts. It was not polite. It was not proper military conversation. It was the kind of question that could end careers if asked in the wrong place at the wrong time. I have done my duty in defense of humanity. That was not what I asked. Lisa felt her hands clench into fists. This prisoner was testing her patience in ways she had not experienced before. I do not keep count, Morrison. Good commanders focus on objectives, not body counts. The Zephyrians keep count. What? They remember every human who dies in this war. They have ceremonies for them. They believe that forgetting the dead dishonors both sides. Lisa stared at Jake through the force field. They are the enemy. Why would they honor our dead? Because they do not see humans as enemies, Commander. They see humans as a species in pain. The words hit Lisa harder than she expected. She had spent 8 years fighting the Zephyrians. She knew their tactics and their technology. She had studied their military structure and their ship designs. But she had never considered how they might view humanity. That is ridiculous. They attack our colonies. They kill our people. They started this war. Jake shook his head slowly. Did they, Commander? Or did they respond to human aggression the only way they knew how? Human aggression. We were exploring space peacefully until they showed up and started shooting. The first human expedition to Zephyrian space included 12 warships and demanded they open their borders for human colonization. When they refused, humans attacked their border stations. Lisa had read the official reports about first contact. They told a different story. Humans had made peaceful overtures that were rejected by hostile aliens who fired first. That is not what happened? It is exactly what happened. I have seen their records, Commander. I have talked to survivors from those early battles. Humans arrived in their space ready for war, and they got one. Lisa felt something uncomfortable stirring in her chest, a feeling she had not experienced in years. Doubt. Even if that were true, the war is 8 years old now. Both sides have committed acts that cannot be taken back. True, but both sides can choose to stop. The Zephyrians will never agree to peace. We have tried to negotiate. Have you? Jake stood up and moved closer to the force field between them. Or have human diplomats made demands while human fleets gathered at their borders? The Zephyrians call your peace talks negotiations, at gunpoint. Lisa wanted to argue, but found herself thinking about the last attempted peace conference 3 years ago. The human delegation had included 2 ambassadors and 15 admirals. The meeting location had been surrounded by human ships. When the talks failed, both sides blamed the other for being unreasonable. You have been living with them for 3 years, Morrison. Of course you believe their version of events. I believe the version that makes sense, Commander. I spent 25 years as a human before I ever met a Zephyrian. I know how we think. I know how we approach problems. How do we approach problems? With force. When humans encounter something we do not understand, our first instinct is to either control it or destroy it. We call it being practical. Others might call it being afraid. Lisa felt her anger building again. Humans are not afraid of aliens, Morrison. We have proven that in battle after battle. Humans are terrified of aliens, Commander, not of their weapons or their ships. We are afraid of what they represent, which is what? A different way of existing. The Zephyrians do not conquer other species. They do not expand their territory through force. They do not measure success by how much they control or how many enemies they defeat. Then how do they measure success? By how much they learn. By how many problems they solve without violence. By how well they understand the universe around them. Lisa found herself listening, despite her better judgment. Jake Morrison spoke about the aliens, with a kind of respect she had never heard from another human. Most defectors she had read about seemed bitter or broken. This man seemed genuinely at peace with his choices. That is a nice philosophy, Morrison, but it does not work in the real world. The universe is dangerous. Species that cannot defend themselves get wiped out. The Zephyrians have defended themselves, Commander, against us, for 8 years. But they have never tried to wipe out humanity. Because they cannot. We are too strong. Because they choose not to. Their technology is centuries ahead of ours. In most areas, if they wanted humanity extinct, we would have been gone years ago. Lisa felt a chill run down her spine. Intelligence reports suggested the aliens had advanced technology, but nothing indicated they were that far ahead of human capabilities. You are lying. I spent 3 years learning their language and studying their history, Commander. I have seen their deep space vessels that could cross the galaxy in months instead of years. I have watched their automated systems repair battle damage faster than our crews could cause it. The only reason this war has lasted so long is because they have been fighting with one hand tied behind their back. Why would they handicap themselves in a war? Because they keep hoping humans will grow tired of killing and start talking instead. Lisa stared at Jake for a long time without speaking. His words challenged everything she believed about the conflict that had defined her adult life. If even half of what he said was true, then the war was not what she thought it was. Even if I believed you, Morrison, what difference does it make? I am a military commander, not a politician. I follow orders and complete missions. You lead people, Commander. You make choices that affect thousands of lives. That makes you more than just a soldier following orders. I lead like a warrior, because that is what this situation requires. Jake smiled sadly and said the words that would echo in Lisa's mind for days to come. You lead like a warrior, Commander, but warriors eventually break under the weight of all that armor. Lisa left the detention area feeling unsettled in ways she could not explain. Jake Morrison's words echoed in her mind as she walked through the quiet corridors of her ship. Warriors eventually break under the weight of all that armor. What did he mean by that? She was not broken. She was one of the most successful commanders in the fleet, but sleep did not come easily that night. Lisa lay in her bunk staring at the ceiling and thinking about things she had not considered in years. When had she last smiled? When had she last had a conversation that was not about tactics or duty or the war? When had she last felt anything other than anger or determination? The next morning brought routine reports and standard duties. Lisa tried to focus on her work, but found her thoughts drifting back to the conversation in the detention cell. During the daily briefing with her senior officers, she caught herself thinking about Zephyrian ceremonies for human dead instead of listening to intelligence updates. Lieutenant Kate Williams noticed the change first. After the briefing, Kate approached Lisa with a concerned expression. Commander, is everything all right? You seem distracted today. I am fine, Lieutenant. Just thinking about our prisoner. Has he provided useful intelligence? Lisa paused before answering. He has given me information to consider. Should we schedule a formal interrogation with the intelligence team? No. I will handle questioning him myself. Kate looked surprised, but did not argue. Lisa had a reputation for being thorough with enemy prisoners, but she also had a reputation for turning questioning sessions over to specialists after initial contact. Keeping personal control of an interrogation was unusual for her. Lisa found herself returning to the detention level that afternoon. She told herself it was to gather more military intelligence, but she knew the real reason was curiosity about the things Jake had said. His calm certainty had shaken something loose in her mind, and she wanted to understand what. Jake was sitting, quietly reading from a datapad when she arrived. The guard had given him access to non-classified human literature at his request. Lisa could see he was reading poetry. That seemed strange for a man who had been living with aliens for 3 years. Commander Hayes, I wondered if you would come back. I have more questions, Morrison. I am happy to answer them. Lisa studied his face through the force field. He looked rested despite being in a detention cell. Most prisoners showed signs of stress after their first night in captivity. Jake Morrison looked like a man taking a vacation. Why are you so calm? You are a prisoner on an enemy warship. Your life is in my hands. Because anger or fear would not help my situation, and because I do not think you are my enemy. I am a human military commander. You have been living with aliens for 3 years. By definition, we are enemies. Are we? Jake set down his datapad and moved closer to the force field. I think you are a human being who has been carrying a very heavy load for a very long time. I think that load is starting to hurt you in ways you do not want to admit. Lisa felt defensive anger rising in her chest. You do not know anything about me, Morrison. I know you have been in command of military vessels for over 10 years. I know you have never married or had children. I know you have no close friends among your crew because you believe friendship makes leadership impossible. How do you know those things? Because I used to be exactly like you, Commander. Lisa stared at him in surprise. You were never a military commander. No, but I was someone who thought strength meant never showing weakness. Someone who believed that caring about people made you vulnerable. Someone who built walls around himself so high that eventually he forgot there was a world outside them. What? Changed? I got captured by the Zephyrians during a reconnaissance mission 3 years ago. I expected to be tortured or killed. Instead, they treated me like a guest who had gotten lost. Lisa found herself genuinely curious despite her better judgment. What did they do to you? They asked me questions, not about military secrets or human technology. They asked me about my life, my dreams, my fears, things no one had asked me about in years, and you just told them. At first I refused to say anything. I was prepared to die before betraying human military secrets. But they were not interested in secrets, Commander. They wanted to understand who I was as a person. Lisa thought about her own interrogation training. Human methods focused on breaking down resistance through pressure and intimidation. The goal was to extract information as quickly as possible. The idea of aliens being interested in personal stories seemed bizarre. Why would they care about your personal life? Because the Zephyrians believe you cannot truly know a species without knowing its individuals. They study humans by learning about human experiences and emotions and relationships. That sounds like intelligence gathering to me. It is. But not the kind you are thinking about. They are trying to gather intelligence about human nature. They want to understand why we are so angry all the time. Lisa felt another uncomfortable stir of doubt. Humans are not angry all the time. When was the last time you laughed, Commander? I mean really laughed at something funny, instead of just making polite social noises. The question caught Lisa completely off guard. She tried to remember the last time she had found something genuinely amusing. The last time she had felt light-hearted or joyful about anything. The memories seemed to be buried under years of duty and discipline and war. I fail to see how that is relevant to anything. The Zephyrians think human aggression comes from human sadness. They believe we attack others because we have forgotten how to be happy with ourselves. That is ridiculous. Is it? Jake sat back down on his bench, but kept looking at her. Think about the humans you know, Commander. Really think about them. How many seem genuinely content with their lives? How many wake up each day feeling grateful and peaceful and excited about what might happen? Lisa thought about her crew. They were good people who did their jobs well, but Jake was right about something. Most of them seemed to be going through the motions of living rather than actually enjoying life. They worked and ate and slept and followed orders. But when was the last time she had seen any of them look truly happy? People are serious during wartime, Morrison. That does not mean they are sad. The war has been going on for 8 years, Commander. Most of your crew has never known peacetime as adults. They think constant vigilance and suppressed emotions are normal ways to live. Suppressed emotions keep people alive in combat situations. What about in non-combat situations? What about when they are off duty, or on leave, or spending time with people they care about? Lisa realized she did not know how her crew spent their personal time. She made it a point not to get involved in the private lives of her subordinates. Professional distance was important for maintaining discipline and authority. But now she wondered if that distance had cost her something important. The Zephyrians showed me something during my time with them, Commander. They showed me what humans used to be like before we became afraid of everything. What do you mean? They have been observing human development for over 200 years. They have records of human explorers and scientists and artists from before first contact. People who traveled to the stars because they were curious about what they might find instead of worried about what might find them. Lisa tried to imagine humans exploring space without weapons or military escorts. It seemed impossible given everything she knew about the dangers of the galaxy. Those people were naive, Morrison. The universe taught them better, did it? Or did humans decide the universe was hostile and then create the hostility they expected to find? The Zephyrians attacked human colonies. That is historical fact. After human military forces demanded access to Zephyrian territory, the Zephyrians had never attacked anyone before humans arrived in their space. Lisa felt frustrated by the circular nature of their conversation. Every argument she made seemed to lead back to questions about human behavior and motivations. Jake Morrison had a way of turning military discussions into philosophical debates. Even if humans made mistakes in first contact, Morrison, that was years ago. The war exists now. People on both sides have died. Someone has to win, and someone has to lose. Why? The simple question stopped Lisa cold. She had never considered alternatives to victory or defeat. In her experience, conflicts ended when one side became unable or unwilling to continue fighting. The idea that wars might simply stop without clear winners seemed alien to her, because that is how wars work, according to who? Lisa found herself struggling to answer. Military Academy had taught her about winning and losing. History books described conflicts in terms of victors and defeats. But she realized she had never seriously considered whether those were the only possible outcomes. Jake watched her think, and seemed to understand her confusion. The Zephyrians have a saying, Commander. They believe that in any fight between two wounded animals, the only real winner is whoever stops fighting first. Lisa spent the next 2 days avoiding the detention level. Jake Morrison's words had planted seeds of doubt that grew stronger each time she tried to ignore them. During routine crew meetings, she found herself looking at her officers differently. Were they really as dedicated as she thought, or were they just going through the motions of military life because they had forgotten other ways to exist? Lieutenant Kate Williams approached her after the morning briefing on the 3rd day. Commander, we have received new orders from Fleet Command. Lisa took the datapad and read the encrypted message. A Zephyrian battle group had been detected entering the outer edge of the system. 3 heavy cruisers and support vessels were moving toward their position. Fleet intelligence estimated they would arrive within 18 hours. Standard response. Protocols, Kate. Bring the ship to battle readiness. Alert all department heads. Yes, ma'am. There is something else, Commander. The message includes specific orders regarding our prisoner. Lisa read further down the report. Fleet Command wanted her to use Jake Morrison as bait for an ambush. The plan was simple and brutal. Put Morrison in a life pod and launch him toward the approaching Zephyrian ships. When they moved to recover him, the Guardian would attack from concealment behind a nearby asteroid field. The tactic made perfect military sense. It would give them positional advantage and the element of surprise. The Zephyrian commander would not expect humans to use one of their own as bait, even if that human had been living with aliens. The battle could be over before the enemy had time to respond effectively. Lisa stared at the orders for a long time. 3 weeks ago, she would have begun preparations immediately. The plan offered an excellent chance of victory with minimal risk to her crew. It was exactly the kind of tactical thinking that had built her reputation as an effective combat commander. But something felt wrong about it now. Maybe it was the conversations with Jake Morrison. Maybe it was the growing doubt about the nature of the war itself. Lisa could not shake the feeling that using a prisoner as bait was the kind of thing the old her would have done without question. Commander. Kate was waiting for instructions. Begin battle preparations, Lieutenant. I need time to review the tactical situation. Lisa went to her quarters and tried to focus on the coming fight. The Zephyrian ships were powerful, but the Guardian had advantages in armor and firepower. If they could achieve surprise, the battle would be quick and decisive. Another victory to add to her record. But victories were starting to feel hollow in ways she did not understand. Each enemy ship destroyed meant more dead people on both sides. More families that would never see their loved ones again. More reasons for the war to continue. She found herself thinking about Jake Morrison's description of Zephyrian ceremonies for human dead. Did the approaching ships carry people who mourned human casualties? Did they have families waiting at home for news of the battle? Were they afraid the same way her crew was afraid? An hour before the enemy arrival, Lisa made a decision that surprised her. She went to the detention level to talk with Jake one more time. She told herself it was to gather last-minute intelligence about enemy tactics. But she knew the real reason was that she needed to hear his perspective on what was about to happen. Jake was meditating when she arrived. He sat perfectly still, with his eyes closed, and his breathing slow and steady. Lisa had never seen anyone look so calm on the eve of battle. When he opened his eyes and saw her, he smiled, with what looked like genuine warmth. "Commander Hayes, I wondered if you would come." "Morrison, there is something I need to tell you. Zephyrian ships are approaching this system. 3 heavy cruisers and escorts." Jake's expression did not change. "Are they here for me?" "Fleet Command believes so. They want me to use you as bait for an ambush. And will you?" Lisa found herself hesitating. 3 days ago the answer would have been automatic. Orders were orders, and her job was to follow them regardless of personal feelings. But Jake's calm acceptance of his possible death made her question the morality of the plan. "I have not decided yet." "What is making you hesitate, Commander?" Lisa sat down in the chair outside his cell. It was against protocol to spend extended time with prisoners, but she no longer cared about minor rule violations. "You have made me think about things I had not considered before, Morrison. About the war, and about human nature, and about what kind of person I want to be." "What kind of person do you want to be?" "I used to think I wanted to be a perfect soldier. Someone who always followed orders, and never questioned authority, and never let personal feelings interfere with duty. And now I am not sure that person exists. Or if she does, whether she is someone worth being." Jake leaned forward and looked at her with those strange, peaceful eyes. The Zephyrians have a word in their language that does not translate well into human speech. The closest equivalent would be something like the strength to be vulnerable. They believe it is the most important quality a leader can have. Vulnerability is not strength, Morrison. Vulnerable leaders get their people killed, do they? Or do leaders who are afraid to show vulnerability make decisions based on fear instead of wisdom? Lisa thought about her career and the choices she had made as a commander. How many of those choices had been driven by fear of appearing weak or uncertain? How many times had she chosen aggression over diplomacy because it seemed safer than admitting she did not know the right answer? "The Zephyrian ships that are coming, Commander. Do you know why they are risking battle against a human warship to recover one person? Because you have intelligence value to them." "No. Because they consider me family. In Zephyrian culture, anyone who lives with them for more than 2 years becomes part of their community. They would never abandon family no matter how dangerous the rescue might be." Lisa felt something twist in her chest. "You said earlier that you were not important to them." "I said I was not their spy or their agent, but I am important to them as a person. The same way every member of your crew is important to you, even though you try not to admit it." The comparison hit Lisa harder than she expected. She did care about her crew, despite all her efforts to maintain professional distance. The thought of losing any of them in battle kept her awake at night more often than she wanted to acknowledge. But she had always seen that caring as a weakness that could compromise her judgment. "If I refuse to use you as bait, Morrison, I will be disobeying direct orders from Fleet Command." "Yes, you will. That could end my career. I could face court-martial for insubordination. Yes, you could. Why would I risk that for someone I barely know? Jake was quiet for a moment before answering. Because you are starting to remember what it means to be human instead of just a soldier. Because you are beginning to understand that some things matter more than following orders. Lisa stood up and paced in front of his cell. Everything in her military training told her to follow the battle plan regardless of personal feelings. Orders existed for good reasons, and commanders, who ignored them, created chaos that got people killed. But something else was telling her that using Jake as bait was wrong in ways that went beyond military regulations. It felt like the kind of thing that would change her permanently, like a line that once crossed could never be uncrossed. The Zephyrian ships will be here soon, Morrison. I have to make a decision. I know. What would you do in my position? Jake smiled sadly. I would ask myself what kind of person I want to be when this is over. Then I would make the choice that person would make. Lisa looked at him for a long moment, then turned and walked away without another word. She had a decision to make, and not much time to make it. The approaching battle would test more than just her tactical skills. It would determine who she really was underneath all the armor she had spent years building around herself. Lisa stood on the bridge watching the Zephyrian ships approach on the main screen. 3 sleek vessels moved through space with a kind of grace that human ships lacked. Their hulls gleamed like polished metal and their formations stayed perfectly coordinated, without visible effort. They were beautiful in a way that made her understand why some humans might be drawn to alien culture. Commander, the enemy ships will be in weapons range in 20 minutes, reported Kate Williams from her position at the tactical station. Battle stations. All hands prepare for combat. The familiar routine of pre-battle preparations began around. Her crew members moved to emergency stations, while computers ran final diagnostics on weapons and shields. Lisa had done this hundreds of times, but today felt different. Today she could not stop thinking about the people aboard those approaching ships who were about to fight and possibly die. Commander, Kate spoke quietly so only Lisa could hear. The prisoner transport is ready for launch. Shall I give the order? Lisa looked at the tactical display showing Jake Morrison's life pod loaded in Launch Tube 3. One command from her would send him floating toward the enemy ships. When they moved to recover him, the Guardian would have perfect position for a devastating surprise attack. The battle would be over quickly, with minimal casualties on the human side. It was the smart play, the safe play, the kind of decision that had made her reputation as an effective combat commander. But something inside her rebelled against the idea of using another person as bait, regardless of the tactical advantages. Negative, Lieutenant. Belay that order. Kate looked shocked. Ma'am? Cancel the prisoner transport. We will engage the enemy directly. Commander, that goes against our specific orders from Fleet Command. Lisa turned to face her second in command. Kate Williams was a good officer who deserved an explanation, even if Lisa was not sure she could provide one that made sense in military terms. Lieutenant, I am giving you a direct order to cancel the prisoner transport. Do you have a problem following that order? No, ma'am. Canceling prisoner transport? The bridge fell quiet, except for the sound of systems preparing for battle. Lisa could feel her crew watching her with confusion and concern. They trusted her judgment, but this decision seemed to go against everything they knew about her tactical approach to combat. Open a channel to the lead Zephyrian vessel. The communications officer looked startled. Ma'am, you heard me. Open a channel. Channel open, Commander. Lisa took a deep breath and did something she had never done before in 8 years of warfare. Instead of demanding surrender or issuing threats, she simply said, "This is Commander Lisa Hayes, of the EU's Guardian. We need to talk." The response came quickly in accented but clear human speech. "This is Commander Kael'Tharin of the Zephyrian vessel, Swift Current. We are surprised by your communication. Human warships do not typically request conversation. This is not a typical situation, Commander. I have someone aboard my ship who belongs with you. I would like to return him without unnecessary bloodshed." There was a long pause before the alien commander responded. "You speak of Jake Morrison, yes? We had assumed you would use him as weapon against us. It is human military practice." Lisa felt heat rise in her cheeks. The aliens expected treachery because humans had used similar tactics before. How many other prisoners had been sacrificed for tactical advantage over the years? How many people like Jake Morrison had been treated as tools instead of human beings? "I am not following standard practice today, Commander. I am offering to transfer Morrison to your ships peacefully." "Why would you do this?" Lisa paused before answering. The honest response would sound crazy to her crew, and probably to the aliens as well. But Jake Morrison had taught her something about the strength of vulnerability, and she found herself willing to try it. "Because Morrison has shown me that this war might not be what I thought it was. Because using people as weapons is wrong, regardless of military necessity. And because I am tired of fighting enemies who might not need to be enemies." The alien commander was quiet for so long that Lisa wondered if the communication link had failed. When Caltharan finally spoke, his voice carried something that sounded like surprise mixed with hope. "Commander Hayes, would you be willing to meet in person? There are things we should discuss that cannot be said over communication channels." Lisa looked around her bridge at the faces of her crew. They were waiting for her decision with a mixture of trust and confusion. She was about to do something that would change all their lives and possibly end her military career. But somehow, that felt less important than doing the right thing. "I will meet with you, Commander Caltharan. Neutral territory. 1 escort each." "Agreed. We will use your main hangar bay if acceptable." "Acceptable." Hayes out. Lisa turned to Kate Williams, who was staring at her with obvious concern. "Kate, you have the bridge. Prepare the hangar bay for a diplomatic meeting and bring Jake Morrison from detention." "Commander, are you sure about this?" Lisa smiled for what felt like the first time in years. "No, Lieutenant, I am not sure about anything, but I think that might be the point." An hour later, Lisa stood in the hangar bay watching an alien shuttle dock with her ship. She wore her dress uniform but had left her weapons in her quarters. Jake Morrison stood beside her, looking calm and somehow proud. Lieutenant Kate Williams stayed close by with her hand near her sidearm, but Lisa had ordered her not to draw weapons unless directly threatened. The alien who emerged from the shuttle was tall and graceful with skin that seemed to shift color in the light. Commander Caltharan moved with fluid motions that reminded Lisa of dancers she had seen in old Earth videos. When he spoke, his voice carried warmth that she had not expected from an enemy commander. "Commander Hayes, thank you for agreeing to this meeting. Thank you for trusting me enough to come aboard my ship." Jake Morrison spoke often of human capacity for growth and change. "Today you have proven he was correct." Jake stepped forward and embraced the alien commander like an old friend. "Kale, it is good to see you again. And you as well, Jake. We were worried when your ship was damaged." Lisa watched the reunion between human and alien with growing understanding. These were not enemies meeting on a battlefield. They were friends who had been separated by circumstances beyond their control. "Commander Caltharan," Lisa said carefully, "Morrison has told me things about this war that challenge everything I thought I knew. He claims the Zephyrians never wanted conflict with humanity." "That is correct, Commander. We have been hoping for 8 years that humans would become ready for peaceful contact. What would that look like?" The alien commander studied her with large eyes that held depths Lisa had not expected. "It would look like what is happening right now. A human military leader choosing conversation over combat. A willingness to question assumptions that have driven conflict for too long." Lisa felt something shift inside her chest. A weight she had been carrying for years suddenly seemed lighter. "What happens now?" "Now we talk," said Jake Morrison with a smile that reached his eyes for the first time since she had known him. We figure out how to end a war that never should have started. Lisa looked out through the hangar bay at the stars beyond her ship. For 8 years those stars had represented a battlefield where humans fought aliens for survival and dominance. But Jake Morrison's words had shown her another possibility. Maybe the stars could represent something else entirely. Maybe they could represent hope. Where do we begin? She asked. Kelthoran's skin shifted to warmer colors that Lisa somehow understood meant happiness. We begin by remembering that strength sometimes means having the courage to stop fighting. Lisa nodded slowly. She was no longer the Iron Lady of the Void. She was something new, something that Jake Morrison had helped her become by showing her that true leadership meant more than just winning battles. She was someone who chose understanding over conquest and wisdom over warfare. She was someone who had learned that the greatest strength was not in the armor you wore, but in the courage to take it off when the situation required something more than a warrior. She was finally ready to be human again.